Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast. Now on at our regular time of 7 p.m. on every Wednesday. I'm the host, Mark Devlin, and this is Scotland's number one anti-national show. I'm here tonight with my co-hosts, David Griffiths and Niall Fraser. What have we got for tonight, David?
Tonight, I will be making a very polite request of non-Scottish political figures that they desist from providing unhelpful suggestions on the future of Scottish politics.
I'll be detailing the best deal on the planet. £5 for almost $500 million in loan guarantees.
Oh, love that. And we'll have a short look at the final two candidates in the Tory leadership contest, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, and wondering who will fight the Nats best. A little bit of an extension from last week.
Of course, we've got the Zoomer of the Week as well. How can we forget?
That's right. So we'll be back in just a moment. Right, thanks to you out there. Our crowdfund to undermine Sturgeon's Pretendy Ref is going great. We have raised £6,600 so far. A lot of that is going to go to billboards, social media campaigns, and when the time is right, we will be getting a QC's opinion on legal opinion to challenge the Lord Advocate's decision. As we know, this is a big mess that the SNP have got themselves into, but it needs to unfurl itself a little bit before we can actually take action. But nonetheless, we still do need your cash. So if you can donate to the project, please go to our website, big donate button at the top, and please add what you can. And we also appreciate you donating to the Majority podcast as well. Everything helps, big or small. We have 16 months or so to destroy Nicola's referendum, and every penny helps. Okay, so we'd also like to thank, as we always do, our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation for helping to put this podcast out. So many of you will be watching there, for example, Jazz, I think that is, from Kirkcaldy. And David.
And don't forget, you can also watch on YouTube from where you can subscribe to the Majority and get alerts. Just think you will never miss the podcast, so subscribe now.
Yes, and please do like, share, comment, tell your friends. Extend the reach at clicking a button. Like I said last week, every like, share, it really is, it's like a bullet against nationalism. A metaphorical bullet, that is. So get the comments in early and try to keep them as short as you can. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So coming up, who is going to put the boot into the Nats? Will it be Liz or will it be Rishi? Let's see where we are. Here we go. Right. So we're down to the.
Oops.
And that's what happens. Okay, so we're down to the final two in the leadership race. Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss remain, while Penny Mordaunt, Kemi Badenoch and Tim Tugendhat are all out. Yeah. David, we've missed you these past few weeks. Podcast was off for a break, and then you were off for a break. So good to have you back. And please tell us what your thoughts have been on the contest so far.
Well, I say with no exaggeration, I think what we've seen so far has been appalling. I find it fascinating to watch cabinet ministers, colleagues in the same government, hurling insults at one another, like losing team members in an episode of The Apprentice. And what we're being forced to witness here is just nothing more than naked ambition and lust for power, and it's so unedifying, it's horrible. I think the standard of the debate has been dreadful. And I think the conduct of the participants has been pretty much shameful. So I think it's just been a horrible spectacle and a process that takes way too long. And I think, like most people, I just want it to end.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. I don't know why this process takes so long. I think it's September or something when the actual vote is. I mean, we should just basically have another couple of debates maybe and and then have a vote. I mean, why would we? No, I'm not waiting. I'm not a Tory party member.
Yeah.
Have a vote on it, but why is the public waiting for it? Boris Johnson has resigned, and it should be time to move on.
Yeah.
One would think. I have a slightly different opinion on the contest in general. I think there needs to be actually more debate between the candidates and actually on substantive issues. We haven't heard anything really,
That's
other
true.
than
That's
some
true.
economic stuff, a little bit of foreign policy. We've heard nothing about Scotland, for example. Not that that's a big issue. Big issue does, of course, but and nothing really on. I mean, there are many other social issues and so on that are in people's mind, and it'd be quite good to hear more about those and see what the story is. Okay. Niall, you went saying that?
I mean, you're very right. I think, given that this is going to be dragged out for an entire another month of August, it would be good to see some deeper dives on the policies. I mean, personality over policy. I think we've had the last couple of years of Boris there. I think personality. We need somebody that's more into policy at this stage. I know personality's got a lot to play for, but really, we need somebody that can get into the nitty gritty about the actual policy details, and no have his personality sort of overshadow all the work that they do.
Yeah, I mean, personality I think is really coming through in these latest debates. It was quite shocking, I thought, watching that when I was shouting at the TV telling Sunak to stop talking over Truss. It was really quite. I thought he was going to I'm not a woman, but I thought he was going to mansplain me to death. It was like it was very intense. And of course the last debate there last night was cancelled because of the incident with the host. That doesn't happen here.
The clip was quite scary, actually. I wonder what happened, but we need more information on that.
Yeah, it was quite a shocker. But and one of the things I've noticed in these debates a little bit is that they're talking about tax cuts and they're talking about inflation. I don't think most people really know very much about that. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I totally disagree with you there. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Really?
I mean, well, you're maybe right in saying that people don't know much about inflation or tax cuts, but they can feel the effects of inflation. Absolutely. But it's just discerning where it comes from. I mean, everyone's enduring this cost of living crisis, and it's the inflation that's the cause of that. So really, if more people start to learn that it's inflation rather than
yeah, I know what you're saying. People understand what inflation is, right? But if I was to say to you, look, okay, we're going to cut taxes and someone else says, well, that's going to make it more inflation. You don't actually know, do you? I mean, there's so many experts around there. Liz Truss has her experts. Rishi Sunak has his experts. I wonder to some extent if this, cutting tax is just like red meat to the Conservative faithful. David.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not sure arguing back and forth on tax cuts is going to convince many people at all. I mean, I get Niall's point entirely. People are going to see the effects of what's happening very soon. But do people really want to have a discussion about tax cuts between the two proposed next new PMs? I'm not sure. I think it's just a little bit dry. There's so many other things you could be talking about, and as I say, I just think the standard of the debate has been poor. I think they've allowed themselves to be bogged down almost, and I just think it's. I mean, I can't watch it now. I religiously watch politics shows, but I won't watch these debates. I think just because of the gladiatorial aspect I mentioned earlier. If you've ever watched The Apprentice, you see these people snarling at each other. It's just dreadful. I genuinely can't watch it. So,
well, I do. I quite like the combative thing. I think it should be educational, and it should teach people what the policies are. You kind of expect Simon Cowell to come in with a golden buzzer. You're in. You're going to. You're going to Westminster.
Yeah.
That's it. To the Red Identify, like something like that. But okay, let's to our point. Of course, we are most interested in who can give the Nats a kicking. That's really what it's about. And that comes to policy, personality. David, your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, and I say this with some reservation, of the two candidates, I would reluctantly back Truss simply because she's been unequivocal in her dismissal of the idea of a second independence referendum. She gave a very short and definitive answer while Sunak dithered. So from that point of view, I think it's a poor choice, but at the moment I favour Truss, and I think I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I don't know why I put that one up, but okay. Niall, what do you think?
No, I'm in the exact same camp as David. But again, it's the lesser of two evils, chat. I mean, they seem very, very similar candidates, just different shades of grey. So I think Liz Truss is easily the better candidate. You mentioned last week, Mark. She's very well. She just puts the SNP down almost immediately. With it, will we have another referendum in Scotland? No. But then you pose the same question to Rishi, and it's a whole big hullabaloo. So we need somebody that just stands firm on the question, says, no, you're not getting it. We can maybe get it in an actual generation, like you promised.
Yeah, well, we have this. I thought this was interesting. This is an article here on STV News, and it says, "What have Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss said about Scottish independence?" And this will show you a little bit of media bias. Down here, it says, "One of the top tasks in their inbox will be responding to SNP demands for a second Scottish independence referendum in October 23." Like, is it really in the top? One of the top things? I don't know.
I don't think it even makes the list. It doesn't even make the list for these
certainly
guys.
After Boris just said, no, you're not getting an S30. So I don't see how that can actually go anywhere. My feeling as well, I think I follow you guys. It's like, Liz Truss, she's like, okay, no. Whereas Rishi's like, well, maybe. And we had this thing where he was... he said he was interested in doing a second referendum after Brexit, or something that Brexit would show the benefits, and then the Scots would go for that. And there's a little bit of a paternalistic attitude from him. So, for example, from today there was an article in Scotsman, and here we have Rishi Sunak promises to drive down Scottish independence and stand up to the SNP, and you go, oh, that's great. But there's a thing in here. Well, I've got it actually down here. It says. He says, we need to win the argument and show that you can be a patriotic Scot and a proud advocate of a united kingdom at the same time. And I just think
that's a good point, though.
Well, you can be, but I think it's like, it just seems a bit like patronising to some extent.
Yeah,
I think.
slightly.
I think, and it's a bit like, I think many people bristle at that. It's like, well, I don't need to be told by you to be a patriotic Scot. We're doing this, and actually, what we're interested in is the UK and being part of the UK. And it just seems a bit in the edge for me. I think, and I'm not obviously not nationalist. Okay, so we have. Is there anything else? Yeah, and also I saw this article. I wonder what you think about this. Where Liz Truss, she backed this camp. They're trying to pull this out now that she backed the campaign for Scottish Conservatives to split from the UK party. So some of her foes in the Scottish party are pushing this out and saying, well, she supported Murdo Fraser to make a separate party and all this type of stuff a while back. Any thoughts on that, Niall?
Well, I think a new party is needed in order to combat the SNP. And to be fair, I would support Murdo Fraser in starting another party. I'm not on best terms with Murdo, but at the same time, something needs to be done.
Well, yes, we're not particular fans of Murdo. He's, certainly he blocks us for calling him an arse. But so, but I suppose there is some argument for that. I think we should say I'm against that, and I know that you guys have been contemplating something along those lines. But it's just an interesting thing. They're trying to throw this into the mix.
Sure.
It's interesting.
They'll find any ammunition, obviously, and this is just something handy they can throw at her. But I mean, she's ex-Lib Dem anyway, so we know that she's changed her mind and very.
Well, that's true. Yes.
So that's a bit of a poor one to throw at her. I would have thought, but anyway.
Right. I wonder. Okay, have we got any good any comments coming in here? We have a few people saying they support Liz. And yeah, here's a comment. What's that say? It's not two evils. She has brought a lot of trade to the UK. Well, there you go.
I stand corrected.
That's it. And this Jeannie says here, what about them sorting out the missing money? And the ferry fiasco steel mess to stop this wastage of taxpayer money. Yeah, so it's much more than just a pretender. If this is actually a very, very good point, if they actually started targeting things and saying, look, we're going to come in, we're going to audit the books, we're going to find out where the money was wasted here. That not just like, we can stop a referendum. Well, that's already done. It's like, because again, maybe that feeds into that idea of the Scottish Tories always saying, vote for us to stop a referendum. Right, and we might come on to that, I think, a little bit later as well. I think
maybe they should change tack to vote for us, and we'll expose the SNP. I mean, how much of a better tagline is that?
Exactly.
It's incredible. And Jeannie, I wouldn't hold your breath about the missing money, because it's been missing that long now that if somebody turns up with it, they're going to go, where'd you get this? Where'd you get this money? Where'd you find it? They're instantly criminalising themselves. So this money is long gone. It's never will be found. Never, ever, ever.
Yes, and Brian says he called Murdo worse than an arse, and he's not blocked. Well, I don't know if it's good to be blocked or not. Rather not be blocked, rather see what the nonsense they're talking lately. But we have to firm them up. It's a big part of what we talk about on the show, and what the majority is about is to firm up the response to nationalism, and that's what we want to. Hopefully, we can get this message up. But David seems to have disappeared. So hopefully,
still got his audio, but his camera will be there.
Oh no!
Right. Okay, I'll put you off just for. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that.
Glad we're not the only ones who have technical issues. But yeah, one of the things we're trying to do is to firm up this support, and the Scottish Tories are so wet, that we need ineffective. When we're disloyal against Boris and all that type of stuff. So hopefully we need to, as we keep putting more pressure on them, we can get better results and more firming. We see a little bit of more firmness on our side. I think more confidence on our side saying, no, it's not, and maybe no referendum, and maybe this next stage is like, yeah, and by the way, where's the why did you waste all this money on ferries?
Exactly.
It's a bit like that. Right. Okay. And in a second, we will come back with David, who is going to talk about people sticking their oar in when it's not needed.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Press the right one. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. It's good to have you with us. You can add your comments on Facebook and on YouTube. It also goes out on Twitter, but you can put comments in there on the stream. So if you really want the ideal situation, please go to YouTube, subscribe, and put your comments in. That's what we want. Now, coming up, David is going to talk about.
Right. So, in the past few days, guys, we've seen some figures who are not closely associated with Scottish politics making unhelpful and frankly idiotic pronouncements. Last week, Welsh First Minister and Welsh Labour Party leader Mark Drakeford gave us the benefit of his wisdom. This was in a Radio 4 interview when he was asked if the new Prime Minister, whoever it turns out to be, should grant Nicola Sturgeon a second independence referendum. Now, Drakeford stated that although he disagreed with the idea, the Scottish public had voted for the SNP, whose manifesto contained a pledge to hold a second independence referendum. So Drakeford then opined, well, how can this be denied? Well, the answer, of course, Mark Drakeford, is because it can be denied because you cannot claim a mandate on a reserved issue following an election to a devolved executive, as he should know very well as the leader of one. A parallel to this would be Plaid Cymru standing in the Welsh Assembly election on a manifesto pledge to abolish the monarchy. And then they win a majority of seats, and so they turn up the next day at Buckingham Palace and say, sorry, Your Majesty, but you see, the Welsh people had a vote, and, we can't deny it. You can't do that, Mark. What do you think, guys? What's your opinion?
It's just as ridiculous as the way you put it, David. I mean, Mark Drakeford, really, are people really paying attention to this gentleman's comments? Probably not. Is he on his way out? Probably yes.
It shows some kind of disarray a little bit on UK Labour now. We talked about this last week. We had we've over the past few months, Anna Sauer, Jackie Bailey, Ian Murray have all been pushing Keir Starmer to say the UK is one thing. We're not going to do any second referendum. There's no chance of that, and they have to do that because if you want a referendum, you might as well just go to the SNP and vote the SNP. Right, but if you want to get rid of the Tories at Westminster, then you need to vote for Labour. That's most likely, right? Let's say. So, and if you think there's going to be a referendum, why would you vote for Labour? So, I think if you've lost all your hope, that's the theory, then you can go back to vote for Labour. So they've managed to get this strategy together. And then every so often, some appeaser or moron or useful idiot sticks their head up and says, "Oh yeah, but we need to give them a second referendum because of democracy." And then the whole discussion is about that. And we just talked about this a minute ago, where instead of them talking about housing, education, all the Labour stuff, social welfare, and all that stuff that they're supposed to be talking about. And then that's all get excited for a while, oh yeah, we're going to have a second referendum. Labour is, Labour's on our side and all this, and it's just chum in the water, really.
Yeah, quite
precisely what it is.
Yeah, very disappointing. I mean, it did look like the Labour Party had hardened its attitude to this a bit. Niall and I were at a rally at the weekend, and there was a Labour figure there who made it absolutely clear that he opposed any idea of a second referendum. And we hear somebody, an outsider, stating an opinion list. It's so disappointing, and it just shows, as you say, I mean, Labour is still not joined up, and as long as that goes on, they're not really a plausible alternative to the Conservatives, however bad they are. So
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, well, I think it takes a little while to get the message across, and it may need some high-profile put downs. I noticed that they haven't actually put down Mark Drakeford particularly. I heard someone said he was retiring anyway, but I think at a certain point, maybe that kind of thing is someone needs to be made an example of.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, a sacrificial figure. Yeah. So that was Drakeford, but today we saw even worse, and if possible, an even worse idea. The Reform Party's Richard Tice has suggested that reserved matters, other than, as he put it, military and foreign affairs, could be and should be devolved to the 4 UK regions, and he specifically mentioned immigration, when going on to suggest that Scotland could have a completely different immigration policy from England while inside the UK. I'll just give you his exact words here. I don't know if you've got the article there, Mark, but his exact okay, I'll read it out. I think, apart from military and foreign power, the individual nations should be much more responsible. For example, Scotland could have a completely different immigration policy from England. That's completely possible, but at the moment it's not done. Those are the sort of things where actually I think more devolved powers to the individual nations would be a good thing. Guys, tell me what you think.
Just outrageous.
Don't get us started.
I know. I can feel my blood boiling up. I'm getting. My blood pressure is rising. Every word you were saying there, my blood pressure just creeping upwards. See, the thing is, imagine giving the SNP more responsibility. Can you imagine? Like, seriously, it's as if they aren't scandalous enough. As if things aren't broken enough. Yeah, let's give them more things to break. I mean, the immigration policy as well. Just outrageous.
Absolutely.
How many millions of people would be import in order to be voters for the SNP?
Yeah, it would be outrageous. It's a real shocker. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a copy of the clip, but I urge anyone to have a look at it on the web. It's just really shocking. There's a round table of them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we should give Scotland more stuff." And Richard Tice like, "Yes, of course we should give more stuff." And it just goes round, and you're like, "What's this about?" And we're doing our best here, as we say, to try and firm up this kind of thing. And here's these, as you're pointing them out. That's why you're pointing them out, because these people who don't know what's going on here, who have no idea, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, sure, why not? Just give them more stuff." Like the Gordon Brown school of appeasement. And they're like, "Yeah, more, yeah,
give them
more and see how much more they can screw up the country." Maybe it's a plan. Maybe that's the idea.
That could be, but I mean, just taking the logistics of this just for a second, if you don't mind. Apart from the idea of different immigration policies in the UK, where there's free movement throughout the country, which would thus negate any differences of immigration policy, unless you're going to tag immigrants. Has Tice actually considered what would happen if this SNP government was put in charge of immigration? As Niall said, their stated policy is to grow the economy by growing the population. And they've said that they would have limitless, open immigration. Imagine what that would do to Scotland's public services, which are already on their knees. They would collapse within weeks, literally. So it's just a ludicrous idea based on, exactly as you say, Mark, the false premise that you can appease nationalists by offering them further devolved powers. You can't. Yeah. Nationalists will stop at nothing to break up the country. So my suggestion, polite as diplomatically as I can, to Richard Tice, Mark Drakeford, and anyone else who feels inspired to share their views on the way forward for Scotland, engage brain before speaking, or better still, don't bother speaking at all, because it doesn't sound like you can help. Just stay out, please.
Can I just jump in and say that our viewers are the best? So Elizabeth Mack with a perfect comment, the perfect comment. The SNP can't cope with the powers they already have. So really, we're going to give them more?
Yeah.
No,
well, they're not interested. No, this is the thing. They're not interested in the powers. They're only interested in independence.
Absolutely.
Right? So they're only, and we might say they're only interested in breaking up the UK. So giving them more power doesn't do anything, because they're not interested actually in that.
They don't want to work. That's right, exactly. So what's the point in giving them more opportunities to make it work?
More power, you're giving them more power to attack you with.
Quite.
That's what's happening now.
Crazy stuff. And there's been too much of that. And as we say, we're trying to firm up the media, people, external commentators, Scottish Tories, Labour Party, everyone, and understand that basically what we try to do here is we're representing the majority, right? The majority opinion is, no, we don't want a second referendum. We just absolutely don't even want to talk about it because we won. Right? We won. And we'd stop talking about it and actually get on with the real stuff here. Do whatever you can. And not only that, we won. So we want the actions for the winners. We want them less immigration, less or whatever it is. Anything the nationalists want, just do the opposite. Yeah. That would be my way of doing it.
We'd have an amazing country if that was the way.
Absolutely right.
Just if they want something, just say, no, you lost. That's it. And there's just this, and there's so much appeasement around, and we're gradually getting around it. But these people, it's just useless. It really is useless.
Yeah. Very annoying. Dennis Matheson with another good comment. Political activists cannot run a country.
Oh, that's exactly.
This is succinct, perfect comment. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis. Okay, coming up, we are going to. Okay, so what can you buy for a £5 in Scotland? A Big Mac, a pair of Liz Truss's earrings, or 330 million in loan guarantees from Nicola Sturgeon. Niall is going to tell us more in just a few seconds.
Right, so I'm sure everyone will be aware of this, but if you aren't, be prepared to hear the unbelievable. So there's a gentleman who goes by Sanjeev Gupta, and he'd done a deal with the SNP, and it's just another one to add to the never-ending scroll of SNP scandals. So this week we've been given the news that for the low price of £5, ladies and gentlemen, you could be in line for almost £500 million in Scottish government-backed guaranteed loans. I can't even stop myself laughing at this. So who is this mysterious entrepreneur? And by the way, I'm using the term entrepreneur very, very lightly because it would seem that the man is closer to a crook than a businessman. So I've got a couple of articles up here. There's earlier in the year, the Serious Fraud Office visited Gupta's offices across England, Wales and Scotland on Wednesday as it escalated inquiries. Gupta's Paris offices were also raided by French authorities, delving into Gupta's alleged money laundering operation. So naturally, this man of such high esteem is the ideal business partner for the Scottish government, of course. So, Scottish ministers, and this is from an article earlier in the week, Scottish ministers are facing a transparency call after it was revealed a metal tycoon under investigation for fraud paid just £5 towards the acquisition of a Highland smelting plant with taxpayers, me, you, the viewers, financing the rest of the 330 million. Well,
Well,
I
is
should
this part of the?
should get a transparency on this. It's our money they're using.
Is it part of the? This is the loan bank or this fake bank that we've been using. Is that part? That's what's giving the money, or is it
It's
directly from the Scottish government?
no doubt that that stupid Scottish National Investment Bank that isn't a bank, the pretendy bank, pretending to be. It's just the pain it
Stay with
gives me.
us.
I'm quoting Willie Rennie. So Mr. Rennie said the SNP government have been gullible once again. Say it again, please, Willie. 2,000 jobs were promised by Gupta, which have not been delivered. So where I checked today, 40 jobs have been delivered.
Right.
40
And so apparently
of
what's
the
happened is
2,000.
they package they repackage these loan guarantees, right? Because if you've got something that says the government is going to back this £500 million loan or £330 million loan, whatever it is, first thing you do is you go off and sell it to someone else and these finance people, and it goes away into the ether, right? You know, it's end up owned by some hedge fund or whatever it is, and some other people, and it's all away. And you say, I've got 500 million in loan guarantees, I'll sell you that for whatever.
Yeah,
right? The Scottish government's on the hook for it, right? They have to pay it, even if you don't pay it.
I'm getting like flashbacks to this film with the AA tranches and housing market going to crash. It's a tranche within a tranche, and they're fooling nothing.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. That's what happens when they repackage it, repurpose it.
So, just continuing from Willie Rennie. So, we need a statement from ministers to finally properly explain this deal. So, can you believe that this has not been properly explained?
Of course,
£330 million in loan guarantees. The financial exposure for the government and its detailed plan to recover the position and limit the exposure to the taxpayer. So, believe me, guys, our money's not coming back. I can see it in the wind. It's not coming back. This guy's away with the money. So
I always wonder about these guys. Like it's like the Guptas of the world and other these economy. How do they get there? It's like the millions and millions. Don't you just say I've parked 50 million. And okay, it's fine. We're always after the next thing or whatever, next scam, right?
Sure.
David, you got anything to say on this?
No, I mean, just that they can't say they weren't warned. I should say I mentioned the rally we were at the weekend. One of the speakers there was Niall of the Indian Council of Great Britain, who wrote no fewer than 4 times to Sturgeon before she awarded this man the money to say, don't do business with this man. He's not a credible guy. Don't do it. You will regret it if you do. 4 times. Didn't listen. So, frankly, this is on you, Nicola, because you've chosen to give this man our money. Now, what are you going to do about it? This is far too big to be brushed under the carpet. In fact, this is bigger, double the size of the ferry scandal in terms of cost. So, heads have to roll for this. This is just you can't £500,000.
Well, heads should roll. You're right, but as if it wasn't enough. If you're listening to this, viewers, and you're not sufficiently angered, allow me to rub some salt in your wounds. This is the Scottish Government spokesperson in their response. Okay, the Scottish Government is committed to openness and transparency. Our intervention to support the Lochaber aluminium smelter and to secure the continued operation of the Dizelle and Clydebridge steel mills have preserved strategic industrial capacity and supported the livelihoods of hundreds of people since 2016.
So you're giving them the money.
The Orwellian spokesperson of INSOC, we've got the Scottish Government is committed to openness and transparency.
So this is
okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, so this is the same lame excuse that they gave for losing all this money in the ferries. We've kept shipbuilding on the Clyde. Yeah, but nobody's building any ships. All you're doing is you're keeping a handful of people in employment, half of whom are, in terms of the ferries, Romanian immigrants who are being paid literally half the going rate because they're not up to the job. And this is their proud boast. It's the same thing. They've always got this little glossary of excuses. Oh, no, but we're keeping these industries open. but they're not doing anything. It's just, oh man.
Well, mainly it's in search of a headline. My researcher, also known as Mary, has prepared this for me as well. She says this isn't the first time Sturgeon and SNP have risked billions doing dodgy deals. Well, it's not even the last time. Lord Folks reminded us in a great article this weekend that back in 2016, the SNP were ready to do a 10 billion deal with Chinese Railway Group Limited, owned by grossly corrupt, inverted commas, Chinese construction group, and no due diligence, nothing. It's just like, here's a headline. We're big shots, right? That's what it is. We're big shots. We can do big stuff. We can do business, but it takes a lot to run a big business or a quality business. Let's put it that way. I've got friends who've worked in big, huge multinationals, and they've been worked there their whole lives. And they're still learning, they're still doing it, and it's intense, extreme work. And these people are like, well, I've done a few years at an accountancy firm as a trainee. That's what Kate Forbes, right? You're like, you can compare Rishi Sunak and Kate Forbes. It's like he's been a hedge fund manager. He's done all this, actually worked with high finance, has worked with people at a high level, and these people don't know anything about it, and they're easily corrupted and seduced. Alex Salmond was the same. Because they're like, oh, I was just a wee person in Irvine or wherever Salmon's from, and now these billionaires are talking to me. This is the best thing ever. I'll just roll over and let them rub my belly. It's like
another. Just staying on the Gupta thing. Kevin had a good comment there. I think we should take the estate back and the money plus Gupta. We send Gupta to prison. So if Gupta doesn't repay our money back, guys, it's taxpayer-funded money. It's our money that he's been given. If he doesn't take it back, then I think we should take his estate right off him.
Yeah, but who's going
That's
to take this?
only fair.
If it was me, right? I would be like, well, your government gave me these loan guarantees. I just resold them. So it's nothing to do with me now.
The problem?
You gave the thing, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything criminal there? There's nothing criminal about it. You're a bunch of idiots. That's a different matter, right? You're criminally insane idiots for giving me this deal. But that's, you could say that's pretty good as a business person to do that.
Yeah. It'll go down again. It'll be like, who signed off on the ferry document? Remember that whole argument? Yeah. It'll be like this. It's going to be 3 months committees trying to find out who signed off on this loan agreement to Gupta. When we won't find out. At the end of the day, it'll just be lessons to be learned. So really, this is what I keep getting back to it, guys. The SNP are scandal proof. They're scandal proof because every scandal is one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And before you even address the first one, they're on to the next and the next. So
we need to definitely more oversight. That's the thing we mentioned earlier. We need, if Liz Truss said something like, we're going after this guy, right? We'd be like, oh, this is good. This is good stuff. This isn't just like, oh yeah, vote for me and I'll stop our independence referendum. It's like, we're going after. I hate this guy. I'm going to go after him. He stole our money, right? Or I'm going to go after the SNP people who gave him the money.
Yes,
right.
More important.
To be more correct, why did they give that money away? And that's actually the real thing. So I think if we need to get the candidates to make these direct actions, we want to say, right, get Sturgeon up in front of the committee and say, no, you can't you can't not come here. You spent taxpayers' money. You're accountable for it. Tell us what happened to it. Who signed it, right? And get them on the stage and show in the in committee, and she has to say, oh, I signed for it, and then people will know. But at the moment, they're not. They're able to get away with it because there's no oversight at all.
Yeah.
Has there been an inquiry, calls for an inquiry into this? Has anybody made that?
I think there has been some calls, but at the same time, there'll be another scandal in the corner, David. And talking about scandals, Zoomer of the Week's coming up, and I've got another one in there.
Oh, there's plenty. There's always a scandal in Zoomer of the Week, but that is a very good point. Just so, thank you, Niall, for that. The very best way to stay up to date with the podcast is to go to our YouTube channel, just search for the podcast and rattle that subscribe button.
Yes.
That will give you alerts, and then you'll know it's coming up every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Here we are live, going through things that no other anti-nationalist show goes through. Hopefully you get some entertainment, some insight, maybe learn something, or maybe just able to vent through the comments. It's all good stuff. So, get back to here, and coming up, it's highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the week.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Looks like I actually burst this one. All right. So, okay, what we got? My nomination for Zoomer of the week are the water people.
Water people.
What do you mean, the water people?
Scotland is
Water
so
babies.
rich in water that they'll be coining it in when England is destroyed no doubt.
as they're what they're watching their brothers and sisters in England perishing.
Yeah, that's what it's like. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, exactly. They're gasping. They're going through the desert of England. It's been deforested. The sand is blowing in an English guy's face. He's got the English flag wrapped around him. He's gasping. He gets to the border, and the Scots guy comes in his kilt, his wee hat. He comes down with a glass of water. I'll give you this, but it's going to cost a fiver. You know. I mean, that's kind of level of it. You think I'm not joking at this? Anyway, there was a guy. Well, actually, yesterday. Let's start with yesterday. Yesterday one was Christopher McElhenney.
Yep. That's the
Oh,
boy.
this guy,
And he's
this
the Alba
guy.
guy, right? He was Alba man. And England very worried about drought. Scotland has more fresh water in Loch Ness than there is in all of England. Perhaps in the future, as good humanitarians, we would be happy to pump it to England for free. So it's like we're really good people. We're so good that we're going to give the English our water. Not that they don't already have any water. But the Loch Ness thing continues. With today, there's a guy, he's Kenny Anderson, who says, the big factoid here, Loch Ness holds an estimated 263 billion cubic feet of water, blah, blah, blah. Its deepest points are over 800 feet, which is twice the average depth of the North Sea. It's like, okay, so we've got a deep lake, and right, and so
yeah.
It's as if they haven't heard of this thing. You just go maybe 2.5 hours in the car, and there's kind of mountains and lakes in England. Actually, it's called the Lake District.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's like as if there's a desert wasteland down there. We're going to sell them our water. And I mean, even in the worst case, imagine that actually did happen. Israel is an actual dry country. They don't have enough water, and they've got these desalination plants, and
exactly,
it's just nonsense.
Which takes salt water out of the salt water that makes it drinkable. That's the whole point. I mean, I remember in the 70s they used to talk about this when there was drought in England. Of course, the weather was still terrible up here. This isn't new. It's just a pathetic line with no basis in fact or reality, trotted out by desperate separatists who've got nothing else to offer other than a pack of transparent lies. That's all it is. Laughable.
Well, I guess it's because they know there's no oil anymore. So they're what they can sell.
So now it's water. That's it. That's the new phrase.
Anyway, it's a combination of Scottish exceptionalism. We've got the best water in the world.
Yeah.
For people, mainly promoted by people who haven't actually been anywhere else in the world. And just many countries have great water. I mean, Norway is. I mean, what's the difference between Norway's water and Scotland's water? It comes from Santa Claus. I don't know. It's great, I'm sure. And then, but the combination also with greed. You've not got any water, and we're going to sell.
We're going to use it against it. We're going to use it against you. Our mass amount of water is going to be flooding your way.
Someone else said there's a secret pipeline. Oh, there's the pipeline. What was that one there? There you go. Robert says Sturgeon's been pumping. Oops, that's a different one. Sturgeon's been pumping England for the past 15 years. All right, okay. You caught me by surprise there.
He's not been pumping water down there, right? Okay.
But yes, Heavenly Malbex is saying it isn't the secret water, isn't their secret water pipelines. It's just, how do people think like this? It's really something else,
Is there not a wee bit of psychopathy in there as well, that you would deny someone water, the basic life giving molecule? You know what I mean? You need water to survive. And we're going to literally deny other people that.
Yeah, well,
and just watch them wither away and die.
It's part of the nationalism is greed. Nonsense as well. Right, okay. Daft bastards, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Right, so, okay, we are still on Zoomer of the Week. Next up is going to be, where have we got?
Me, I think.
David, okay, all right.
Okay. So, in a slight break from tradition, my nomination for Zoomer of the Week this week goes to a political party, and unusually, that party is the Scottish Liberal Democrats. Now, the reason for this is, in recent months, I've noticed a pattern of behaviour from Scottish LibDems. And I know some of the rest of you guys have reached out to quite a few of the Lib Dem figures in attempts to engage with them, and they've consistently refused on a personal level or through the majority. They're just not really interested in engaging. Now, last week, John Ferry, who I believe is the Scottish Party's economic spokesperson, wrote an article for The Spectator. And in this article, he used the term British nationalists. And this was in the first few lines of his article. So I follow John and I speak to him on Twitter. Now, we know that this term is used pejoratively by separatists to dismiss the views of those of us who oppose the breakup of the UK. So it was very disappointing to see Ferry using it. So I said, but why are you using this term, John? Why are you talking about using a separatist trope? And he said, oh, well, see, the thing is, it's in reference to people who seek the abolition of Holyrood because that's a nationalist standpoint. And he said, we've got to make Holyrood work. Nobody should be seeking to abolish it. Well, that's fine, but nobody is seeking to abolish it. Nobody, literally, no senior figure is suggesting that. And certainly no political party is putting that forth as a policy. The only the alternative to that is the party called Abolish Holyrood, who got an absolute fraction of votes in the last election, but they're not serious players. So anyway, I've further on in the discussion with Ferry, one of his other followers came on and said, well, my belief is that a British nationalist is somebody who, and he gave a definition of a Brexit voter. So I said, is this what you're saying then, guys? You think a British nationalist is someone who votes Brexit? And this, I believe, is where the Lib Dems, the Scottish Lib Dems at least, are going wrong, because as we know, their view of Brexit was that it was the end of the world. We know that Alex Cole-Hamilton, the Scottish leader, has used this term to describe Brexit voters. Now, that to me is just a very, very patronising and untrue way of describing 17.4 million people. There aren't 17.4 million British nationalists. There aren't 17.4 million anything in this country apart from people. So it's just ludicrous. So my message to the Scottish Lib Dems is just remember that you are supposedly a pro-UK party, so stop using a known separatist trope in an attempt to conflate support for Brexit with wholly false accusations of British nationalism.
The whole British nationalism thing really annoys me. I've got an article that's mainly written about it, going through all the things. But the main thing, I think, is I asked this in the thread that you were on. It says, are you aware of any British nationalist political parties that are against Scotland, have an anti-Scottish agenda? Well, what are these British nationalist parties? The BNP, whatever, I don't know if they exist, Britain First and all that things. They're not interested in that at all. Absolutely. So these nationalist parties, it's a conflation of English nationalism and some kind of British nationalism. If you voted for Brexit, somehow you're a nationalist. It's this idea. So you go, okay, well, does that mean the 1 million? I should say, actually, does that mean the 1 million people who are in the SNP who voted for Brexit are also British nationalists?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Are they British Scottish nationalists? I mean, it's just name calling. That's what I said to John. Leave the name calling to the separatists. This isn't clever, And I'm sure this is coming from some party policy saying, "Oh, let's just make sure we call Brexiteers British nationalists. That will really get our message across that Brexit was a bad idea." Nobody's talking about Brexit anymore. It's done. So just stop it, guys. Seriously, just don't do this. Very, very disappointing. And that's why you're my candidate, my nomination for Zoomer of the Week.
Well, we still have ongoing discussions about the language. Our side taking on the language of nationalists.
Here.
We have this British nationalist thing. We have the whole thing of people calling pro-UK people or just British people unionists. It's like the civil unionist thing. It's not native to Scotland. It was it's imported by Alex Salmond into Scottish politics deliberately to divide and to make it appear more like Northern Ireland. If you're not against this minority of Scottish nationalists, you're also a part of a toxic majority, I suppose, is what they're trying to say. And you're just as bad. It's not like that at all. I mean, most of us want to go on with our business and go on with the daily, get our services better and all that type of stuff. We're not consumed by the Constitution. We're not consumed by the Union. We don't even think the Union is a thing. I never even heard of this idea of the Union until back. So it's like we live in Britain.
We do.
We're British, and these people are separatists and they're nationalists. That's it.
That's it, exactly. Whenever somebody mentioned it today about unionists and talking about the union, guys, we don't live in a union. Nobody calls France a union, or Germany, or even the United States of America, because they're not. They're countries. The union took place 308 years ago, or whatever it was, or 315 years ago, as a result of which a new kingdom, a new country was created. And it wasn't a union. The union was the joining together of the countries to form a new country. So we live in a country. We don't live in a union. So
we say this often. The UK isn't a union. It's the result of a union.
Yes,
a thing that happened 300 years ago.
Yes.
It's an intermingled country with people and communities that are all mixed up over hundreds and hundreds of years. And their nationalist is to try and divide us. And one of the main ways they try to divide us is they divide us through language. And the worst thing that we can do is accept their language.
We
should never talk about, never mention the union, but not accept that we're in a union, not accept that we're unionists, British nationalists, and even independence. Independence all sounds noble, but breaking up the UK, which it really is not noble at all. Thank you for your comments there, and I think it was very nice. That was great. Very good Zimmer there. Next up, it is going to be Niall.
Oh, it's my favourite time of the week. It's 5 to 8 on a Wednesday, which means my nomination for Zim of the Week. And although there was a good few ones in the comments there, Nicola Sturgeon could have got it for asking for the Eurovision for Scotland to host Eurovision. She could have easily got it. But this week it goes to Jordan Linden, who today has just quit his role as the North Lanarkshire Council leader. So sadly, another sex pest has bitten the dust. Sorry, guys, sadly. But how many more sex pests lay within the SNP ranks? How many more revelations will come out? Who knows what season 15 of the SNP will bring us? So Jordan Linden, I'm not sure if he's got a relation to there is actually another Linden within the SNP. I think
David Linden.
I wonder if there's any relation there. So Jordan Linden, the leader of North Lanarkshire Council, has stepped down from his role as leader in the midst of yet another SNP sexcapade. I wish everyone wishes that these SNP politicians would stop proving me right. Yep. I think that the SNP are entirely sexually perverted. All of them. They're all lunatics. And I'm being proven right almost week by week by week as a new revelation occurs. So soon, I think the SNP will have to say outright that in order to join the SNP, and definitely to rise within the ranks of the SNP, that having sexual perversions is a minimum requirement from the role. So, I mean, you need to tell me what you think about this, guys. It's never ending. I see Grady's popped up in the chat again. We've had nothing happened there. The charges or the allegation was dropped. I would love for a guest one week to be that guy, the complaining, and we can talk to him. But really, I mean, this seems to be such a regular occurrence in the SNP that it's no longer funny. We had Patricia Gibson, we had Patrick O'Grady, now we've got Jordan Linden, we had Alex Salmond whole court case. We've had, You name it, we've had it. And
yeah, actually, I saw a thing
no.
today. Wings was trying to say, "Oh, Alex Salmond, he's innocent," and all this, and I was like, "Well, Alex Salmond, okay, might have been declared innocent in the
He was
court,
given a
but he
not
had
proven
well,
verdict
it's
as
not
well
that's not
on
On
one
that.
of
one
the
of the charges,
charges.
yeah, on one of the
Yeah,
charges.
but
And then,
it'd be freely admitted that he had
yeah,
inappropriate sexual relations with two of his staff,
Advances, I think it was.
right? And that was the Sleepy Cuddles one, was
Yeah.
quite famous. So, or infamous, I should say. So it's not like, I mean, it's from the top. Well, not necessarily from the top right now down, but
Well, we don't know that. It could be
well, the
top
thing
down.
is that the acceptance of it is certainly from the top down.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
right?
Well,
But it's
Blackford covering up the trail for Patrick Grady.
Yeah.
exactly, this is the thing. So when does the phrase "or lessons have been learned" become acceptable, and when is it not? Because lessons were learned about Grady, and that's why he was able to. That's why Blackford hasn't stood down for supporting him. When even when he appeared on TV stammering and looking really unsure of himself, which was lovely to see. Blackford suffering was great. But even so, he's been kept on. Grady's just been. I think he's had has he been suspended from the party? I can't remember. But this guy's done the honourable thing, it seems, and stood down. Obviously, hasn't done that unprompted. So, who decides what level of sexual misconduct is acceptable? Look, take what's her name, Patricia Gibson, who said to a young man, "Come back and shag me," and then she was. I was so drunk, I've no memory of it at all. So Joe Cherry said, or that Patricia was exonerated. Exonerated.
No, I saw
Exonerated.
that.
No.
She was drunk, so she doesn't even remember what she said. Honestly, I mean, where's the morals here? Honestly, it's just disgraceful.
Well, there are none. There are no
Oh.
morals.
No.
Morals get tossed in the bin as soon as you get your SNP card.
Well,
Just
probably before.
right in the bin. And people are saying Linden is still an SNP councillor, guys. He's only stepped down from the role of leader. Derek Mackay, paid for over a year, sick after discovery. I mean, that's the worst one, easily the worst one. And I'm going to be proven right. Give it a couple more weeks, and we'll have another sexual deviant outed, guaranteed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Over under.
Okay, so David is your new back. You can decide.
Who are we going to decide? Right, let's just have a quick think. I'm going to give it to. I'm very tempted to give it to Jordan Linden, but no, I won't. I'm going to give it to the water people because these are the guys who are putting forth this absolute fiction, and it's people like Chris McElhaney, whatever his name is, who is doing it. It is unforgivable. They're perpetrating a lie, and it's an old lie, and it is patronising and looking down on the people of Scotland, expecting them to believe this total fiction. So no, that the water people get my vote.
Thank you. Another win for
another win. Chalk it up, man. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get quite a lot of wins anyway. I just want to say something here about this guy. A guy came on here in the comments said, "What a load of crap! 3 plastic Scotsmen trying to justify English dominance." That is the kind of sickening, sickening comment from people who try and say that the 3 of us are not real Scotsmen, the true Scotsman fallacy in action. And not only that, we're not real Scotsmen, but that we want to justify English dominance. We're not interested. We actually are representing the majority of Scots who rejected nationalism. And basically, that kind of thing is why we're fighting against you, against your toxic minority of people who want to divide us into real Scots people and traitors. It's absolutely disgusting, and it's only happened, and the reason it's happened is because of Nicola Sturgeon keeping this pretendy ref and never end them going, and it needs to stop. She is responsible for that. She wrote that, as far as I'm concerned, she wrote that comment.
Yeah.
So, can I just add on to that as well? I mean, most of his contentious things is, oh, look, you'd never talk about the corruption in Westminster. You only could. Look, I live 30 minutes from Edinburgh. I think we should focus on the corruption that's on our doorstep first. I mean, come on, guys. And equally, I would call it the corruption in Westminster just as much as I call it the corruption in Holyrood.
Right.
It's got none to do with they're playing a game is like that's more corrupt. But where these people making these comments should really look hard at their own party. Really. Look in the mirror.
Look in the mirror. With that, we're going to draw a close to the show. We will be back next Wednesday, August the 2nd, at usual time of 7 p.m. I'm going to just say hello to Mary, who is behind the scenes doing all the comments. There she is. And we've got tons of comments this week. She's not saying much today because her microphone isn't working. Okay. Oh, sorry, just keep you on there. All right. And then big thank you to our friends at Unite Against Separation and UK Union Voice for helping us distribute the show. Thank you all for your comments.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Nice
David?
comment. Yep. I was going to say, I'll do the thought for the week.
Oh, right. Yes, that's good.
I'm going to leave you with a question, guys. Do you need to be a sex offender to join and become prominent in the SNP? Or does joining the SNP make you into a sex offender?
Oh, okay, very good. Niall?
Yep, so do not forget to subscribe to this channel, guys. And please do share this after the fact. It does help us. And of course, if you cannot, well, you should be able to share and stuff, but if you can give us a small donation, we can all collectively destroy the SNP and destroy the pretended F before it even begins.
Absolutely. I should have said also, find the Majority Podcast on Google and subscribe to the YouTube channel also. Definitely do that.
Great stuff. So we will see you again next week. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your comments. We do read them all. Thank you, Kenny, Anna, everyone. Thanks. So take care and we'll see you soon. Bye now.
Cheers, guys. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.